hope you guys don't miss the music too much. We're having a technical difficulty today, so we'll go music free. But what we're not going to go free of is of oil, energy. Let's get real, people. We've been, it's been pushed and shoved down our throats for years. We need to be green. A wonderful initiative, and it's a great initiative. But we're so entrenched in oil. We're so entrenched in what we have right now that to go from what we have to where we need to go is going to take a lot longer than what all these politicians on the left believe and have promised. Because what they've been telling you all along is we need to go and think about it. We need to sell only EV cars by, and we need to have by, and we need to have by. But nobody talked about infrastructure. Nobody wants to put the money forward to make it happen. So now all of a sudden we're in the end of 2025. Yes, 2026 is a month away. And we're not really that much further ahead than we were when Obama was there. Yeah, there are more electric cars on the road. Yeah, there are more charging stations. But let's get real. America, Canada, Europe, we can't afford it yet. Even if you bring in the Chinese cars, we can't afford it yet because we don't have the infrastructure in place. So sadly, people, we need oil. And today we're going to talk about that. Welcome back to the Rant Network. I'm David Solomon. He's Stuart Brisgell. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. What we love to do is to rant about the topics that, are in our face and that the media just wants to distort to such an extent to make you want to be part of their groupies. What we do here, simply put, politics, culture, society, the norms, you name it, we talk about it. Sit back, folks. We love to hear from you. So send us your comments about what we were talking about here. But today, the conversation is about energy. Now, look, there's one gentleman who likes to listen to us and likes to criticize us on a regular basis. Good egg. But here's the thing. Even he will admit, and he's a guy who been doing alternative energies for decades. We're not ready. There's a political will to make it happen. The infrastructure is not there. And the reality is that politicians have been playing up the need to do it, but don't do what's necessary. See Justin Trudeau. See all these others who signed all the Paris Accords and the Tokyo Accords and all these other accords. How many of them really, really did what they promised that they would do? All they kept doing is push it down the road, blame the right, claim it's not possible, blah, 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 for political gain, because that has been their base. Well, Stuart, last week, little fucker Prime Minister Carney signed a deal with Alberta to run a pipeline from Alberta to BC. There's a whole conversation about the Indigenous population, British Columbia, not important. But here's a Liberal government and Prime Minister who said, we need the energy. We can no longer do what we've done for 10 years. Basically, he reversed what Trudeau has been lying about for 10 fucking years. And little fucker Carney is actually saying, we can't continue this way. Lo and behold, I have to agree with Carney, which is really rare. But I also have to agree with Donald Trump. Instead of trying to push a circle through a square, it's drill, baby, drill. Because until we get everything else, Stuart, in line, that's what we're dependent on. Stuart, in the U.S., I know there people are freaking out over this, but I think it's time to drill, baby, drill.
All right. So the myth of imminent green, right? For years, you've been told, as David said, 100% green future where there is no fossil fuels. Not only is that not possible, it's not an inevitability. Wind, solar will replace everything. EVs will dominate the road. Fossil fuels are outdated. David, this is the slogans of these fringe organizations. And by the way, that so-called everyday listener of our podcast who's a green guy, I own more green cars than he does, right? And I think I'm up to 4 at one time, which I think is probably more than it. But like technology required for a full green conversation doesn't exist on a national scale, whether you're in, France, Canada, or the US, or anywhere abroad. The scale of technology and the infrastructure is not there. The economics just don't work. Wind and solar aren't available 24/7. The grid can't store the power because now we're into battery capacity with limited transmission and overloading lines, which again are fire hazards. Or minerals that we need to create these devices are controlled by hostile enemy nations, right? But the biggest myth is going fully green requires more mining, more land usage, more environmental damage, and more foreign dependence on energy than we already have. That's the truth for any environmental activist because they fail to mention these facts. Grid check, right? Imagine adding 250 million electric vehicles, electric heat for every home, electric stoves in every kitchen, 100% solar and wind supply, millions of new charging stations, and the total elimination of natural gas and oil. David, we would need to double or triple the electrical generation capacity. That would cost, I don't know, 40, $50 trillion.
Don't know.
And the punchline is we don't have enough transmission lines, enough transformers, or grid scale batteries to support a fraction of that. Right? But it doesn't end there, David. The green advocates, they rarely speak about what the transition will actually cost everyday people. Like, again, I'm more US centric, so let's just talk about it. EV subsidies have gone like what, tens of billions, charging infrastructure, trillions, grid expansion, trillions. Solar wind replacement has a lifespan of 20 years, hundreds of billions there. Battery disposal, rare earth elements, and massive land use. Like the average family can't afford a $60,000 EV because without all of these subsidies, that's what that $35,000 car costs. That beats out the Toyota Corolla, right? So the green energy isn't real when vehicles require lithium, cobalt, graphite, nickel, and rare elements, right? Where do these come from, David? They come from dominantly China, the Democratic Republic of Congo, go laugh, the word democratic and Congo, and other nations with horrific labor practices, right? Where are solar panels made? Primarily manufactured by coal-powered plants in Asia, right? Where are wind turbines, right? They use steel and fiberglass, intensive process to make. How about the batteries? What chemicals refining is entirely done overseas? And what about the U.S. would have to strip mine thousands of square miles of current energy system?
Well,
David,
look, Stuart. Okay, you got it. You got it, and it makes a heck of a whole lot of sense what you're saying right now, Stu. But here's the thing, and let's talk about the reality. And we've talked about this on previous episodes. California experiences how many brownouts and blackouts?
we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't even touched that.
But I'm just saying, right now, hold on.
Billions of dollars. Add that. The billions of dollars for 7 charging stations that the Obama administration paid for.
So the point I was trying to get at was the current infrastructure in California, which is supposed to be the leader in this whole green environment, can't hold it on what it's currently doing. Now, even if you were to bring in the cheapest EV cars from China, and by the way, I was in one in Mexico, really cool, not so expensive. But the reality is there are in Mexico, which does have oil and what have you, even they struggle because when I was there in their facility, we had a brownout. And it was like, we had a brownout. So I'm like, okay, so how's your car doing? We hope it charged. So all this to say is that it's just, there's no plan. And in 2021, when I was working on the election campaign here in Canada, it came up. Came up with the candidates. It's all beautiful that you want to have by 2030 these wonderful initiatives. but where's the plan to make it happen? Where is the infrastructure to put it together? Now, Quebec, we are a net exporter of energy. Okay, we light up half of, if not all of New England at this point, and we have the energy. And yet, in my neighborhood, Stuart, we had these crazy blackouts. Now,
Yep.
my neighborhood has a hell of a lot of EVs. Okay, a lot of Teslas, a lot of Hyundais, a lot of EVs, and we're thinking, if everybody or every second house or 2 every 3 homes had an EV, what would that do to the grid in this neighborhood? And
Yep.
political will, there's more in these, and we're it's a public organization, not like private, like what you got in a lot of the US. But here, Hydro-Quebec had no interest in this capital investment because it would have hurt their profits. Like, hello, this is where we're supposed to be going. And they do invest in alternative energy investments, and they do invest in research, and they do all these kinds of things. But to then put into place additional support for the electrical grid, no, thank you.
David, listen, hang on. Let's put things in perspective, because you're just touching on something I got to get at.
Of course you do.
People actually don't understand what full green actually means. Let me just layer that in this, but let you continue. That would mean home temperature restriction, limited driving, mandatory EVs, no gas stoves, no gas water heaters, no gas backup generators, no diesel trucks, no air travel expansion, land use restriction, mandatory recycling, and higher monthly electric costs. That are the hypocrisy of the whole project.
Okay, but whoa. But the last statement you made, and here's where I've had this conversation with some of the politicals and whatever. Yes, your electrical bill will go up, but when they said how much versus a gallon of gas, or how much you're spending on your gas currently, there were a lot of conversations of whether or not there is a savings or not, and it depends on how many miles you're going to do and a lot of other things. But what, Stuart? Go ahead.
When I was in college and I was in Ottawa, we had the cold weather. The cold weather ran an electric heating bill to $890 a month, compared to my neighbor who had gas of $147.
Yeah, no, but Stuart, your comparison's now dead, because I do have electricity in my house, and my parents have gas. Yes, I do have electricity. I've had 2 electric furnaces in my house since I bought the house, and my father has gas. And for years we've been comparing the bill, and now your argument is dead. It's no longer. Gas is now far more expensive to heat a home here in Quebec.
Why is gas so much more expensive?
Because
gas is artificially in Canada made more.
So we're getting killed because of taxes. Let's just call it what it is. The Quebec government, especially, and you look at BC, it's taxed the hell out of it. We had the carbon tax. We had all these other taxes. We're getting killed here on taxes. Look, I'll give you folks an idea. Right now, a gallon of gas here is running you, sorry, not a gallon of, a gallon of gas here Canadian is approximately $6 Canadian, which is approximately $4.75 US. That's approximately what you're getting right now, $4.50 to $4.75 US ballpark, right? But if I go into Ontario, Stuart, right, a gallon of gas there is around $5.25. So there's like a huge difference. Like you're talking about.
No, you're not understanding. I did the breakdown for natural gas. So you actually have, and you got to break it down economics-wise, right? You have the gas commodity cost. Mm-hmm. Then you have the delivery, transportation, storage surcharges. Mm-hmm. Then you got the fixed charges. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the government levy, carbon fuel taxes. And then finally you have the provincial taxes that layer on top of that. So again, where gas in the United States, depending on what state you're in, that doesn't have these taxes, like Florida, where the gas tax is the lowest, but we have the highest transportation tax because of where we're located.
Okay, but right? But think of California, where they've layers of taxes.
Right, but that's layered tax, correct?
Right.
Okay, California and that's why they have the brownouts and the fires and all that crazy stuff.
Stuart, the point I'm trying to say here is, and we went into the economics of it, and the whole thing is that the politicians are playing both sides. You tax the hell out of people, saying, we're going to tax you because you're using gas, and we're going to tax you. It's a punishment. This is what we've been told here, and it's what you're told in Europe too. If you're going to use a gas car, we're going to punish you by raising your taxes. But what we're not going to do is to give you a break on the EV. We're not going to put an infrastructure in place for the EVs. We're not going to put infrastructure in place for green energy. And so as a result, you're being punished twice.
So I'm going to, David, we're going to have to wrap it up, but I want to leave our green friends with this note. What is the nuke myth, and why nuclear is really the green solution? And I'm going to flip them all out. Zero emissions, high output, 24/7, safe and modern designs, scalable, efficient, and it's made in America or Canada. So, David, I'll leave you with that
because I appreciate what you're saying, but to me, it's about infrastructure. Who is going to have the political cojones to go and invest in something that's going to take years, where they're going to get no political gain out of it? Voila, therein lies the problem. Unless you're a congressperson and you're like Nancy Pelosi and you're there for 80,000 years. On that lovely note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wish you a wonderful rest of the week. We'll be back here on Wednesday. Have yourself a wonderful time. And if you're really thinking green right now, okay, have fun with it. But right now, you ain't getting green